Hello, hello, Aderson Oliveira here for the DNNStore. I have with me Tracy Wittenkeller, and I'm going to do a bit of intro on him here. So he's the owner of T-WORX. They are in business since 2004, and they create premium DNN themes that you can find in the DNNStore. He's also the editor of the DNNMagazine, which is available for iOS and Android. On top of all of that, he's also a DNN book author, which we're gonna talk a little bit about that as well. Tracy, welcome.
Hey, thanks, Aderson. Thanks for having me.
Perfect, my pleasure. So we did a bit of a kind of an interview a few years ago. I don't know if you recall that we did for DNN Hero, and it was about mobile and what people should be looking at in terms of mobile. But this was again about 3 years ago. We may touch on that, but it's great to be able to catch up again and see where you are. And so let's keep moving here. So we have a past together. You know that in the last interview that you did for the DNNMagazine, I mentioned that a little bit, so I'm gonna mention that again. I know Tracy since 2007, and we used to be competitors. We used to be competitors in this small network group. And I remember that I used to be amazed by the themes and the designs that Trace was able to come up with on that time, you know. And I said, man, how can I compete with this guy? I mean, he knows so much, and he's a effing book author. So how can I compete with this guy? So again, it used to amaze me there. It still amazes me to see the kinds of designs that he puts together, you know, with his team there at T-WORX. So I mean, again, I'm just you know, trying to come up with the best intro that I can. So let me step back here for a second, and let me ask you, Tracy, where are you located?
I'm in Boca Raton, Florida.
Sunny Florida. You know, I always think about moving to Florida. You know. So who's the team behind T-WORX? Aside from yourself, who else is there? Who else is helping you out?
You know, that's a great question. I have we're a small team. I had and all our team is virtual. I have one guy. His name is Sachin. He's been with me for about 7 years full time, and he's really my main coder. Let's call it. He's not a design. Doesn't have the designer side of the brain that I or my other teammate Alessandra has. But Sachin is more of a coder. So and he's been with me a long time. And then Alessandra, she's actually lived in Georgia, so we all work on the same time zone, which is great. Sachin is in Pune, India, but we work on the same time zone, so that helps a bunch. But those are my two main go-to people. Alessandra, I found her about 1.5 years ago, and the way I found her was kind of cool. I needed to have another designer type person that could take that workload away from me, because here I'm just a small business owner. I've been for years, you know. I've been doing a lot of the things on my own, and I needed somebody that could take over a lot of the skin design and the development side of things with Sachin and take that away from me, so I could focus more on relationships and, you know, day-to-day business activities. So I reached out to on the DNNStore. I looked to see some of the top themes that were out there. And I saw one that was done by Can of Pixels, which happened to be Alessandra. So I reached out and I said, hey, I'm Tracy Wittenkeller with T-WORX. You know, would you be interested in building, you know, themes for T-WORX and maybe, you know, talk about working together? And she was open for it. So I asked her to create a theme just as a test to see if, you know, she really had skills. And she just knocked it out of the park. And we you know, came together and decided on how we can work together. And so I ended up hiring her full time, like in the next 2 weeks, and so she's been with me ever since. And she's just, I can't say enough about Alessandra. I mean, Sachin's great because, again, I found him 7 years ago, and at the time I hired a company in India that had basically a storage facility of designers and developers, mostly developers. And I worked with them for about 1 year, and I pulled my hair out trying to find the right person that could follow my process and understand what I'm trying to accomplish and work the way I needed them to work. And it was really painful process. And finally, Sachin came onto the scene through them. And then over time, he came to work with me full time. And I couldn't be happier with those two people. And I really got lucky finding them. Although It wasn't easy. A lot of people come to me and say, look, how'd you find your people? I'm like, it's not an easy process. Some people get lucky. I got lucky finding Alessandra, and then it happened kind of quick. But so they're my team, my close team. But also I have a very good relationship with Chad and his team at Data Springs for back-end development. So basically, Chad's team is our full-time development team. So Chad and I work very closely on a lot of projects. We do the front end. He does the back end. So we have a very cohesive and great relationship there.
That's good to know. Actually, I got to know Alessandra on the last DNN Con, and she's Brazilian, so I'm Brazilian as well. So I mean, it was a good we had a good conversation there during the last DNN Con.
Alessandra, the DNN diva, the DNN diva. Yeah.
Very good, very good. Okay, so again, spoke a little bit about your team. So what you guys do on at T-WORX? Is that just selling themes? What else do you guys offer? What else do you guys do there?
Right, good question. So we have at least two sides of business, right? One side is creating our own themes and selling them, right, on the DNNStore and on TWorks.com. The other side is creating websites, building custom themes, building complete DNN websites, a lot of back-end development with the help of Chad's team. So we're doing more of an all-around kind of DNN offering, but our real expertise, of course, is in the front-end stuff, creating themes to sell and creating custom themes for customers and building DNN sites from scratch with a specific theme and, configuring all the content. Of course, everything's responsive these days, so it's configuring content for every device and configuring core modules and third-party modules. So a lot of the front-end stuff, I guess.
Got it. Okay. So I guess let me step back for a second here. Let's talk a little bit about your background, where not so much of how you came in contact with DNN, but more so, how did you end up doing design work, this kind of UI, UX work? How did you?
Right. So I guess I've always been a creative guy. I've always had that design, the designer's brain instead of kind of an analytical brain, So even at a young age, I was always, doing something to be creative. I was in the corporate world for a lot of years. I started in the corporate world. And I've only had one real job before T-WORX, and this was a job with an annuity company years ago. And at the time, I met my soon-to-be wife, and I just needed a job at the time, I was in college, I met my wife, I quit college because I needed to be close to her, so I had to find a job, right? So I found a job with this annuity company. I answered a classified ad, and at first I was doing a job that was nothing to do with creatives or anything like that. But I created an opportunity for myself in that company by basically creating a position in the company that didn't exist. At the time, the company, and this was a large company doing $500 million a year in annuity sales, and they were having all of their creatives done by agencies outside, and they were spending a lot of money to do that. So in my current position then, I kind of taught myself how to use PageMaker. A layout program was the layout program back then, right? So I taught myself to do that, and I approached the president and said, hey, I can produce these postcards that you're having done outside for thousands and thousands of dollars. They gave me an opportunity, a chance to do it. I proved I could. I submitted a proposal to create a graphics department in the company and run it, and they went for it. And without knowing anything about Apple products or anything, I'd never used a Macintosh before then. And I just did my research and discovered that if you're going to do anything creative or with graphics on a personal computer, Apple was the way to go. So I submitted a proposal, and the company went for it, and I taught myself everything from scratch, how to use layout tools and how to digitize things. And so from there, it just kind of took off. And for me, creating DNN themes and everything from that perspective was just a natural extension of who I was. And who I am now still.
Got it. Okay, good. So let's talk a little bit about the book, because, I mean, although the book was published back in 2008, I think 2008, 2007?
August 2008.
2008, okay. So I guess that because of that, most likely, if I could guess, it does bring too much money, but it brings recognition, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah, yeah. Writing a book is really, it's not about getting rich selling books, right? It's all about building up your authority and expertise in a certain area.
So, and I'm gonna just bring up the book page here because I have in front of me, and
Okay.
uh, did it show up again an opportunity for you to write more, or is that, I mean, actually, let me step back here. How did that opportunity came up to you?
Good question. So one of my friends in the DNN community, Chris Patera, works for DNN Corp. Um, uh, we talked a lot. We used to Skype a lot, you know, not daily, but every week we would talk because we were helping each other with, I would ask a lot of DNN questions to Chris because he was just, you know, from a developer level, he was so much more advanced than I was. So I needed to find out as much about DNN as I could back then, right? So I could, you know, create good solutions that were based on the platform. So I was picking Chris's brain a lot, really, is what happened. And he was telling me that, you know, he was writing a book. Rox approached him to write this book about DNN development. And he's like, you know, I think they're looking for someone to create a skinning book. I think that's how it came. Or maybe I asked him, hey, you know, do you think there'd be an opportunity for anybody to write a book on skinning and building DNN websites instead of just hardcore module development side of things, you know? He's like, well, I'm not sure. So he gave me the contact. I forget the gentleman's name now. I wish I could remember his name. I sent him an email and I said, hey, my good friend Chris Patera is writing a book. I wondered if there's an opportunity to write a book, you know, for, you know, skinning and building DNN websites. And he immediately got back to me and he said, absolutely yes. So let's do that. And so that's how that all came about. It was kind of, you know, perchance.
And but how was the process of actually writing a book? Because I see that it was between you and Sean. So I mean, how was that process?
Right. So Sean got his picture on the cover simply because it was a .NET Nuke book, right? He wrote the forward, one page, thanks a lot, you know. But no, that's why he got his book on the cover, because he's the guy behind .NET Nuke, you know, always has been. He was at that time, and he wrote the forward. So, you know, all credit to Sean. He deserves it. But as far as, you know, the process of writing the book, the publisher Rox, you know, specifically said, well, look, we need an outline first of chapters. So that's what you have to kind of think through. It's kind of just like you do in marketing or your business. What's your end goal, right? Picture your end goal and then work backwards and how you're going to get there, right? Define the steps and the action that you're going to take to get there. So the book was, you know, book's the same way, no different. So it's, you know, creating your outline, deciding what you're going to write about, putting that in an outline format, and just kind of filling in one at a time with all the details and deciding what you're going to write about.
So back then, I mean, that period between 2007 to 2011, there were quite a few DNN related books. But after 2011, things really got quiet. Would you have a guess of why? I mean, it's taken so long, because it's pretty much 5 years now that the next DNN book is coming up or came up, or actually you are just about to come up. Why do you think that it took this long for a new book to come up?
Well, you know, I think that has to do a lot with the way that the DNN has become commercialized. You know, back then, everything that was talked about it in .NET Nuke was always, and done for .NET Nuke and the platform, was always done for the community and with the community in mind. When DNN became a corporation and they started selling, you know, their products, I think there was something lost between DNN Corp and the community, you know, and I think maybe that was a catalyst for things kind of getting quiet on the, you know, on the book writing end of things and the community end of things, you know, and I think that's really, I think Joe Brinkman, he acknowledged that maybe a year or two ago, that we need to come back and get the community more involved with the whole platform again, and I think maybe that could be a reason.
Next question here. Let's talk a little bit more specifically about the themes and the DNN space in general. Okay. Do you feel that in the last few years, theme developers or skin developers, they came a long way from what they used to be? I mean, let me tell you, back in 2008, 2007, 2009, whenever I see a skin in the DNNStore or in Snow Covered back then, I mean, I cringed on those designs, you know. I mean, they were ugly. They were not up to par to what people were doing on the other CMS. Now, I have a different feeling right now. I want to see your take on that. I mean, do you feel that the ecosystem in general, when it comes to themes and skins, it's really up to par to what can be found out there?
Yeah, absolutely. I think themes have come a long way. And I think that, I think the DNN store has a lot to do with that because it's, for themers or skinners, right? They, instead of having to, think about, gosh, what should a new design look like? They simply have to go to the DNN store for inspiration, and not only for inspiration, but, if I'm a new themer, I'm coming into the DNN community and I want to learn how to really do a theme, one of the first things I would do is go to the DNN store, find one of the best-selling ones, purchase it, and just go through the code and see what's there and see how they built it. And I think that's, I'm sure a lot of skinners have actually done that because when you look at the themes now, a lot of the themes do have a much more modern look and feel. They're certainly a lot more responsive than they used to be. Some are actually done really, really well. Some are not done so well. But I think the DNN store has made it possible for skinners and themers to go in and see what's out there, purchase one for very little money to get an education on what they should be doing.
As a segue from that, Tracy, do you think that the UI UX frameworks out there that they helped on that process as well?
Absolutely. A lot of people are using Bootstrap. That's one of the main frameworks out there. We use Bootstrap for just about everything. So they've made it extremely easy to plug in different features into your skins and into your site using simple HTML, CSS. So that's definitely been a big help.
Got it. Yeah, that's what I would guess as well. Let's talk about your themes, your skins. At top of the interview, I called you as a premium theme provider. And by premium, I mean, again, you have top-notch designs there, and not only that, but your price tags are a little bit higher than the average out there. Yeah. What's your strategy then?
Well, let me answer that by kind of going back to my initial story when I first started selling skins on Snow Covered, right? DNNStore used to be called snowcovered.com. And this was years ago. And I've been using the framework since it was iBuySpy Portal, so it was probably 12 years ago, 11 or 12 years ago, when I was introduced to iBuySpy Portal by a friend. And so he pointed me to Snow Covered where there were some skins for sale there. And the skins that were for sale there I thought were definitely, from a design perspective, sucked, to be totally honest. So I'm like, I'll just teach myself how to create a DNN skin or an iBuySpy Portal skin. That's hard to say 3 times fast. And I'll just teach myself how to create one and put it out there. And as far as the price goes, the skins at that time were, I think the most expensive one was $40. And maybe there were 8 of them out there at the time, So I'm like, well, $40 didn't seem like it was that much to me. So I'm like, here's what I'll do. I'll create my first skin and put it out there for double whatever the most expensive skin I could find was. And at the time it was $40. So I said, okay, I'll sell it for $80. Immediately got an email from Bryce Snow after I posted it. Bryce Snow, who owned Snow Covered at the time, said, Tracy, thanks for your thing. I'm glad to have you here, but I'm sorry, but I don't think you're ever going to sell your skin for $80. It's just way too expensive. And I'm like, well, okay, I think, what I've added in my skin is a lot more value than what's out there, so I'll just take my chances. First month, I sold a bunch of them. And so that's really when the light bulb went on for me with this, iBuySpy.net Nuke thing to sell skins, right, and to be a provider for skins. And I carry that today because even after I started selling skins in the DNN store and I saw the modules that were being, or in the .NET or Snow Covered, and I saw the modules that were being sold there for $20, $30, $40, and I was just thinking to myself that, look, if I'm a developer, I'm a skinner, and I think I'm providing a lot of value here, I'm going to charge for my value, And if I charge a fair price and I do provide that value, then it's a win-win for me and whoever's going to buy my product, right? So from that point on, I used to, when I would speak at a lot of events, I would talk to people and developers and skinners and try to get them to raise their prices on Snow Covered because I always thought that the price levels on snow covered or at the DNN store were always way too low. So I was always an advocate for telling people, look, increase your prices, provide a great value, but increase your price. So, and I have the same thought today. The same thought pattern today in terms of when we create a skin, I think we add a lot of value in the skin, and not just in the product itself, but if someone has an issue or someone needs us, they know they can get us right away. They can get me on Skype or email. They can get my team on Skype or email, and our support is really, really good. So that adds a lot of value to our products and to the services that we offer. So yeah, are my prices for skins higher? Yes, and it's done on purpose.
Okay, that answers the question, definitely. Now, another differentiating point between what you guys do on the DNN store and what the other theme vendors they do on the DNN store is that I see each and every week a lot of the vendors there coming up with, new skins or new themes, or at least variations of the theme. Now,
Right.
You guys have a different strategy because you don't keep releasing a lot of new skins on a lot of new themes all the time. So
Right.
why is that? Is that part of your strategy as well? I mean, tell me a little bit about that aspect.
Yeah, no, that's a great question because a lot of people ask me that. When are you going to have a new theme? We'd like to see some new themes from you. And it's not really part of the strategy. It's more about how busy we are on the custom development side of things. Unfortunately, I'd love to have both buckets of business going 100%, 110% all the time. But because we do a lot of custom work, that takes away from the time we have to produce our own skins to get them out there in the marketplace, unfortunately. But one thing I will say about that, though, we have been able to start getting some new themes out on the Vine network, Vine Tuning Network, and maybe we can talk a little bit about that more at the end of our discussion.
Got it. Let's do that.
Okay.
Um, okay, so although you don't do that many themes, that many new themes, but whenever it's time for you to create a new one, what is the process that you go through to say, hey, this is a design that I would like to put together for the DNN store? Tell me a little bit about that process.
Yeah, that's a good question. So, very rarely do we just sit down in front of a blank Photoshop file and start designing. Sometimes we do that. A lot of times when we want to create a new theme, we'll go out at different places on the web to get our inspiration, right? ThemeForce is a good one, Template Monster used to be, their themes aren't so great anymore, but ThemeForce is a really good source for inspiration and to see what's being done out there on the bleeding edge. So when we find something out there that's being done that we really like, we'll take bits and pieces and kind of work that into a design that we create, And it's funny because I see the same in a lot of the themes in the DNN store. If anybody has frequented theme forest and then go back to the DNN store, they'll see that there are a lot of themes that look eerily similar, right, to the themes in the DNN store. And so, we're not the only ones that get our inspiration from those different types of sources. I think it's done quite a bit, and that's really, that's the best way to get inspiration and to create something that is on the bleeding edge and is going to be well received if it's popular on these other networks as well.
Got it. I mean, that's a great tip for anybody out there that either wants to get to theming or even wants to get just inspiration. Actually, that's a question that I will have a little bit later. Going back to your business and T-WORX, what is the preferred way that you guys like to provide support? Is that via email? Is that via the DNN store? Is that via a private forum? How do you provide support?
Good question. Email is first. Email and Skype is first, right? But we also, when we work with, in terms of people that buy our products and want support, they'll email us directly because when we put a skin package out there, we'll include our contact information within the package so they can easily know how to get us, right? But then they can go to T-WORX anytime and request support through the TWORX.com site. And then for our other customers that we work with on an ongoing basis when we do project work, we use Basecamp for every communication. I don't know, I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with Basecamp, but I'm sure there's some people that aren't. Basecamp is really a project management tool that allows you to, upload create new projects, add to-do list milestones via calendars, add your clients and other, project players to a project. And it's a central source of communication that far and away beats any email, because even though when we post things in Basecamp, we get email notifications back and forth, so to let us know, hey, someone's posted on Basecamp, go read the post and go reply. But that's much better than just email, because we all get too many emails, and it's really easy sometimes for things to get lost. So
Perfect. Okay, that's good. Any particular site that comes to mind that you think that, hey, man, I'm very proud of what those guys did with my skin, with our skin? Do you have any one or two sites that you could point people to see, okay, this is a great example of one of our themes being used to its full extent,
Wow, that's a tough one. I'm trying to think of a theme, and you're talking about a theme that somebody bought from the DNN store and used.
Regardless, actually, independently if it was a custom, something custom that you guys built, or a theme as well, but something that, man, this turned out to be very nice,
Right. Yeah, aerocool.com is one, definitely. It's AEROKOOL, aerocool.com.
I'll get that in the video notes afterwards.
Okay, great. So we create this was a custom DNN site and theme that we built from scratch. Client came to us. They had this old HTML site that maybe some guy's son, 13-year-old, built in his in his room or something. So it did not look professional for a large airplane parts and repair company that Aerocool is. They're huge, right? So they had this terrible website, and they're like, look, we need help. What can you guys do for us? So we came up with a design ourselves. We included some parallax, scrolling and stuff in the skin, and they just that one came out really, really well. And I think that's because we had almost full control over the final product. Instead of a client saying, well, here are the designs, convert this, to a DNN skin. Whether it looks good or not, this is what the client wants, so we do that, right? But in this case, we had full reign over what the design looked like, the functionality, what the UI and the engagement, how that would work. So I think that we're really proud of that one. Yeah.
Very good, very good. And again, it will be available in the video notes afterwards, the link to it. So now I would like to get a few tips from you, and here's the first one. I'm a client, I'm a customer of the DNN store trying to buy a new theme. And again, I'm not sure exactly what to look for, how to check things out. I would like to get from you one or two tips of what people should look when they are buying a new skin. And again, try to be unbiased here. I know that it's hard from your standpoint, but again, what should people try to look for when they are choosing a new theme for their DNN implementation?
Yeah, I like that question. There's a lot of really nice looking themes in the DNN store. When you go to the details page for the theme, a lot of people have created this design of this description for their theme that looks really nice. But it's more important than to just look at that. Go to the live demo and look at every page on your laptop, on your iPad or your tablet device, and on your mobile phone, and see how everything works, because a lot of times the theme will look great on the outside, but when you start digging into the pages on your mobile device, because when it's supposed to be responsive, a lot of them don't exactly work the way they should on a mobile device. So that would be a really good way to know whether a theme really works or not out of the box like it should.
That's a great one. Actually, I don't do that, but I should be doing that too. That's a great one to add to my checklist. Yeah. Now, still on that theme, no pun intended. What is a common mistake or some common mistakes that you see people doing when they acquire a theme and they try to apply that theme to the DNN site? What are some of the common mistakes that people do there?
I think one of the big mistakes is, people make an assumption when they buy a theme that they're going to get, the content's going to be perfect too when they apply it to their site, right? It's just automatically, magically going to work when they apply the skin to their content. And that is simply not the case, especially when we're talking about responsive websites, So when we do responsive websites and you add content in modules on your DNN site, first of all, the modules have to be configured to be responsive, right? Most out of the box aren't. And second of all, if you're dealing with HTML content with images, not tables, but tabular data, anything else like that, unless you add specific styles in the HTML for the content, it's not going to work right on responsive. So that's one of the misconceptions that a lot of clients have, especially clients that are new to DNN. Okay, we've got this great site, we've got all our content in there, we're just going to buy this skin, apply it to the site, and it's going to look great and work great. Definitely doesn't happen that way. So that's a huge, huge misconception out there, I think.
So if I may ask, and again, it's not about talking about whose fault is that, but whose fault is that? Is that the client that was aware of that, or the vendor that didn't educate the clients that those would be required to be done?
Yeah, I think a lot of the responsibility has to fall on the provider, right? So, and this again goes back to live demos. You really need to include information that is valuable to the client in the demo, not just show them a pretty picture and how this, everything works nicely, but you also, like you said, you need to educate the client on, this is what you're going to need to do when you purchase this skin, You've got to give them a little heads up, and we try to do that in the documentation that we provide in our skins as well. And one thing I've noticed in the past is when I've tried to, look at other skin packages that are out there, the documentation in the past has really not been great or non-existent at all. So it really helps if you're selling a skin on the DNNStore, provide documentation that shows people, again, not only the pretty picture, but how everything should work. What we did a while ago was with some of our live demos, and especially in our documentation, we would map out, okay, here's a HTML slider. Instead of just leaving the client to their own, demise to try to do that themselves, we include every single detail, including all the code. Here you go. Here's how the slider works. If you want to make a change, here's where you need to do that. And that's really important to give the client as much education, information with the different components of those skins as you can. You got to make their life easier. This goes back to many years ago, making the client's life easier, right? Making your customers' lives easier and providing more value. I remember early on when we started offering skins on Snowcode and then the DNNStore, a lot of skins out there were created with very few amount of content panes, so the client was really restricted when they bought the skin to the specific content pane structure that they saw in a demo, right? And it just gave them a lot of inflexibility. And not only that, a lot of the skinners back then would provide themes out there, and they would hard code a lot of the stuff directly into the themes instead of creating all these dynamic components the way they should, right? So in that same thought, it's important to give your clients as much flexibility as you can to make it easy for them. So providing documentation and educating them on the components that are actually included in your skin and your live demos and how they work is really important.
Yeah, but I have to tell you, Tracy, that it's a hard balance to do there, because here's the thing: from one side you want simplicity, from the other side you want flexibility, and in the middle of that conversation it may create complexity, because now, to be honest with you, even for me personally, I mean, sometimes it's tricky to implement a new scheme, because again, you have to look at the short codes, you have to look at, so again, I'm not saying that there is a solution for that. I'm just saying that it's a hard balance to play there between flexibility and complexity, But again, this is just a side note,
No, yeah, and I absolutely agree with that. Like I said, especially when people are new to DNN, right? They don't really understand the framework yet, and they don't really understand what a skin is. They just, for whatever reason, they have to use that framework, or they've been the framework has been recommended to them, right, because of all the great things that the framework does. They make a lot of assumptions because they simply just they're not experienced with the framework yet. So it's important to really make clients aware of actually what they're getting, right, and what they need to do to make their site reflect what's in the skin that they're getting. And one important thing to note, I think, is that when we create a skin demo, we'll create a slider and different content panes and different structures and animated elements and stuff, and a client will like that theme and they'll purchase it. But 99.999% of the time, will they have their content structured exactly like the demo? And most of the times, clients won't use all of the components that we built into the demo just to show some cool features. They just won't do it. So there's a little bit of disconnect there when they're like, okay, we got this skin, it's got all these great features, we don't need these features, or we need these features, how do we do that? It's just, you gotta do what you can to make your clients aware of what they're getting and kind of so they understand their expectations and when they purchase the skin and what happens when they apply it to their site,
Very true, very true. Okay, so let's step outside of the theme space for a second here, just for a second. Let's talk a little bit about the DNNMagazine, because one of the interesting things you personally came up with about a year and a half ago was the DNNMagazine, a very, very great initiative. So tell me a little bit of how that came about and where it is right now.
Okay. So I just, some time ago, I think I created the first issue in October of 2013, I think, October, November 2013. And I've always had like a passion and for marketing, right? And because, again, comes as a part of my creative, brain, right? So I've always been involved in what can I do for clients to help them grow their business, what can I do to help me grow my business. Most of the time it's been helping my clients. But so there was, and I really love, technology, right? I like to be on the bleeding edge. Sometimes I've been ahead of the curve there, right? So I try to stay there. But I discovered this platform for creating a digital magazine. It's called Magcast, right? MAGCAST. And it was created by a guy that I followed, an internet marketer that I followed for a lot of years. And I just thought it was the coolest thing, right? Because I can easily create a digital magazine, have that available on my iPad. At first, it was for iPad, for somebody to see. And the way I can create it, I don't have to learn a lot of new things to be able to do that. I can stay within my own little creative world using Photoshop, using Keynote, using whatever tools, Illustrator that I use to create, and just follow some simple steps and some rules to make that available through their platform, right, on iPad or mobile phone. And I just thought it was really the coolest thing in the world, And another way, not only was it a way to build my authority around the .NET Nuke, right, and help the community be seen, and all the great people that are out in the community doing really cool stuff with the platform. But it was also a cool way, I thought, to kind of handle marketing and do marketing. So I was really drawn to that. So I went out on a limb. I joined this mastermind group, and learned where I had a lot of training about how to use this platform, put together a digital magazine. I did it, fast-tracked it in 3 weeks and put my first issue out there. And then I got a lot of great feedback from people in the community saying, this is a really, we really appreciate you doing this, because there really hasn't been a single source to learn what's going on in the DNN community. Even though the magazine, I create a lot of the content, right, from different blog posts or different articles written, but most people don't see those articles and blogs written on the different sources from around the community. So I thought it would be a nice way, using the magazine, to pull all these, interesting articles and really good articles and great content that people should be aware of in the DNN community together in one source. So that was really the idea behind that. And of course, when you get a new idea, you want to go full steam ahead, and yeah, we're going to do an issue every month and da-da-da. Well, what you quickly learn is it takes a lot of time, especially when it's a project that is not generating revenue, sales or other revenue in my business. it's more of a labor of love. So it's like, okay, sometimes it has to take a back seat to, you know, paying the bills, so to speak, right? Making money and making sure that, you know, you can survive and build your business. So in the early year, I guess the first year I might have put out 4 issues, maybe 5, I think maybe 5. And then recently we put out a couple of issues. I think the last one was back in January of this year, I think, December, January. So it's time to put out another issue. So it's just a matter, again, it's a matter of scheduling. Again, because it's a labor of love and it's totally kind of a voluntary project for me, it's gotta, unfortunately, some things have to come before that. So, but it's definitely time to put out a new issue, yeah.
Actually, let me refresh your mind. It was in October 2014, the last one.
Wow, really? Wow. That was, yeah, what is that? That's like 7 months ago?
It's a few months. So I said, I'm just gonna poke him a little bit and see if he can come up with a next. Because I think it's a great, I think it's a great addition to what we have out there. And with information scattered all over the place. And if you have a center, location to find all those different pieces and nuggets of information, that would be great. And again, I understand the labor of love part of that. I know that very much. So again, I really appreciate the effort that you put forward into that initiative, and I hope that you keep that labor of love coming. Maybe in every trimester, every whatever it is that makes sense to you.
Right, and I certainly appreciate the push on that. Definitely.
Perfect. Okay. So let's talk about the future here a little bit. And you mentioned that a little bit before already with the ThemeForest, but how do you go about keeping yourself up to date on what's new out there, new trends? How do you keep yourself up to date?
Yeah, that's a good question, right? Personally, I subscribe to a lot of websites that are really on the bleeding edge in terms of website technology and internet technology. I'm also a member of several mastermind groups talking about topics from web design, but a lot of marketing as well. So I told you before that I have a real passion for marketing, and it comes from my creative side. But I've been helping a lot of clients recently with digital marketing from in all areas, from funnel building, funnel architecture. I really have a lot of fun with. I really enjoy thinking through a campaign for a client, right? If somebody's got a hard product to sell, I really enjoy thinking through, okay, here's what we need to do. We need to create a Facebook ad. Somebody clicks on the Facebook ad, they get to an opt-in page. They get to they opt in from the opt-in page. They get to a sales page, and these pages, the opt-in page includes a video with some text. The sales page includes a video with more text and details about the offer. And then somebody gets to the sales page, they want to buy, wait, let's give them an upsell before they check out, or maybe we push a downsell to them. As part of that same funnel, when somebody opts in, we create an automated, response through MailChimp or some other, email program like Infusionsoft. So creating that whole funnel system and thinking through creatively how to do that and how to get people to opt in and to buy your products and how you add value to them in the process. I really enjoy doing that. So I've really been, I've really been spending a lot of my time recently in that area of business, the marketing side.
Got it. Okay, so again, before you mentioned about ThemeForest, is there another resource that you can point people to that you use to to keep yourself up to date? Is that another one that you can share with us?
Squarespace.com. Squarespace is it started out as a blogging tool, right? But it's more of a website builder tool that you can do e-commerce with it now. They've extended it quite a bit. And I don't know, during the Super Bowl, they even had a halftime commercial for Squarespace. So they've grown really large, but the platform is really, really cool. So they're one's always on the bleeding edge. So I frequent their website a lot to see the new things that they're creating for their platform, and the new things that they're adding to their platform is just always the coolest. So Squarespace.com is definitely another good one.
Got it. Okay. Now, more specifically about new stuff in the UI UX space, is there anything out there at this point in time, Trace, that you feel that, hey, people should be checking this out because this will become big or this will become a major trend in the near future. Do you see anything like that right now? I mean, if you don't, that's fine, but do you see anything like that?
Well, we've already seen one, like parallax scrolling, right? Where when you scroll on your page, the image stays where it is in the background, but your content scrolls over it, something like that. Or maybe you scroll, your image in the background scrolls at a different speed than your content, slower maybe. That's been a big one, and a lot of themers have started to adopt that now. I think at first a lot of people didn't know how to do that in DNN, but once they've seen it done, then they've discovered, they've learned how to do it, and a lot of people are doing it now because for whatever reason, I don't know what the analytics or statistics are about why people like parallax scrolling. I think it's just cool and fun, maybe, I don't know, for engagement, but it's been something that's been widely adopted, and that's really a bleeding edge component that people have implemented in their websites. Another one, a lot of people have included these sliders on their website, and especially on their home page. You can tap through and the image slides over, or it fades into another image for another, place on your website to get to, right? And I think that's kind of going away, and what's coming in is more of this hero type of image on your start page. It's more like a splash screen, if you will, right? Full screen, maybe has an arrow. You can scroll up and that goes away, and then your menu pops back down into a secure position on top and stays there all the time. That kind of thing. The whole hero full screen image or video with a strong call to action is becoming more popular.
Got it. Do you, and again, I just want to quickly mention that, do you think that this is something just for bleeding edge type of websites, or do you see a lawyer or a dentist having that type of effect, on their website as well?
I think why not everybody, right? Whether it doesn't matter what industry you're in, what business you're in, it's just a really nice component to add to your website that promotes engagement, and it's just like it has that cool factor, right? Or that wow, this is a really professional looking website factor. You know what I mean? It just adds another level of professionalism and engagement to your website, which is always a good thing.
Yeah, I would add to that the video's backgrounds, the video backgrounds that we are seeing quite a lot. But again, this is just from my side here. What should we expect next from T-WORX?
Okay. So we're definitely working on some new themes, right? I think Aquay was our last theme that we put into the DNNStore, into the community and sold through T-WORX. And that goes back maybe, yeah, that might be prior to, that might be in 2014 still. So it's been a few months since we put out something in the DNNStore. We've got some stuff in the works that will be coming soon that we're excited about. But also, I mentioned bind tuning earlier. So, for those of people that aren't familiar with bind tuning, it's a really cool framework that was really created by Beatrice Oliveira, right? And she's I forget where she's in, you know where she's from, Portugal. Thank you. So Beatrice approached me maybe almost a year ago, right? So let me back up. So bind tuning is a framework that she's created that allows a developer or a themer to create a theme for to create a theme once and release it on several different platforms for SharePoint, SharePoint Office, Kentika, Umbraco, WordPress, DNN. There's about 13 or 14 different platforms that the themes can be delivered for using the bind tuning framework. So basically what you have to do is use their the LESS framework in a way that they've built it with tokens and whatnot to create your theme so that now they can spit it out for all these different platforms. So it was, of course, I want as many channels to sell our themes as possible. So when Beatrice approached me for bind, I was like, hey, this is an opportunity, so let's do that. So what we had to do was go through a little education process from Beatrice and how we needed to create our themes, and we needed to change our base code from scratch. So as long as we followed her rules and her steps, and we could get there. So we took at least 5-6 months of pain, really, going back and forth to kind of be able to get a theme out there, right? That worked. So so we did that. We put a couple of themes out there, and in just a couple of months' time, they did very well, simply because we were focusing more on releasing them for SharePoint than other platforms. So For DNN, we release those in the DNN store. We pay DNN store percentage, which is great, for the exposure. We release those on T-WORX.com. We don't have to pay a percentage, so that's even nicer, right, for us from a sales perspective. And in releasing them on the bind tuning framework, we have to pay a percentage to Beatrice, but it's nice because when we release a theme for SharePoint, they sell for like $500 a pop. So even when we're paying a percentage back to Beatrice and her team, we're still making a good chunk of change for one theme, right? So we've really been focusing when we're not spending our time on our custom projects, which we spend a lot of our time on, but we've been working on a process to create our bind themes in order to be able to create those on a regular basis and get those more in their community on a regular basis, because we get our themes in front of a lot more people, right? So bind themes are something we've been working on. We've been taking a couple of our existing DNN themes that have done really, really well and converted them for the bind network, and those have done well. But we've got about 3 that should be released like any time now for the bind network, which I'm really excited about as well.
Perfect. Very good. By the way, people keep asking me if I'm somehow related to Beatriz because we have the same last name. So we are not. I'm from Brazil. Brazil was Portuguese colony, so that's the reason why my last name is Oliveira, but we are not related. I should have her around here at some point. Anyway, thanks for the plug on Bind. I truly like what they have put together as well there. So again, great plug there.
Yeah, I can only imagine the work that they put into that. Being able to release one theme on a specific code base and spit it out for all these different platforms is just that's crazy. That's really crazy. So props to Beatrice and her team.
It is. So, Trace, we're coming to a conclusion here. I'm just wondering if there's anything that, aside from, again, what you just mentioned now by the network, is there anything that we haven't covered that you'd like to talk about? Anything else at this point from your side?
Well, I think we've covered a lot, and in terms of, stuff coming from T-WORX. We recently updated our website. We kind of changed the whole thing around, launched a new website, and we built our e-commerce, our store, on the Hotcakes framework, our platform, Hotcakes Commerce, which is, I think, hands down one of the best e-commerce frameworks for DNN at this point, right? Will Stroll left DNN Corp to go head that operation up, right? And they've done a really, really good job. So that's growing. I like the ability with Hotcakes to be able to customize to the nth degree your e-commerce offering, right? Your store, all of the different modules that you can put on a page and how you do that and how everything is displayed and how it functions. You can customize it really a great deal, and that's been great for us. We've worked on a couple of Hotcakes projects to get our feet wet with the framework, and which has been good too. But I really like what Will is doing there with the framework. And I like that we've been able to redo our website in the way that we've done that. I think it's kind of cool. And going back to the marketing side of things, we'll be offering more new marketing services soon, I think, simply because it's such fun. I have such a good time, again, coming up with the creatives, not only in terms of, okay, new themes and what the website should look like, but what you need to do to generate new business and to get people buying your products and services, right? And how you should, provide value to people first instead of try to sell them first, right? If you provide great service and value to people, they're going to want to follow you and they're going to want to, hear what you have to offer and buy your stuff, right? So that's kind of the perspective that I take from that. And I've been following a lot of really top internet marketers for the past couple of years and really getting and building my own education from that end of things, and it's going to materialize into some really good offerings, I think, soon. I'm doing that now for some clients and seeing a lot of good success there. So why not offer it to other people, right? So that's I think you'll see more of that coming from us soon.
Perfect. So Tracy, thank you very much. You were the first theme seller to come up to those interviews. So again, I really appreciate the time and the effort that you put coming today here. And yeah, thank you very much, man.
No, thanks for having me. I really appreciate the time and the exposure. And I'm glad to help be a part of the DNN community and the stuff that you're doing, which is really encouraging.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Bye.
Thanks.